All right, looks like we have a couple people that have joined. So let's get the ball rolling. All right. Hi, everyone. Since we have some new people this week joining us, I just wanted to reintroduce myself. I'm your coach, Chuck. As you may have noticed, my beard is a little bit longer than my profile picture. So the way the Hangouts work is that you submit your questions in reply to the Hangout announcement, and then I answer them through this live Hangout. You can also view the Hangout at any time through the same link after it's gone live, essentially. There's also a Q&A section turned on the right where you can ask questions during the Hangout, and then at the very end, I'll check and see if there were any, and I'll kind of answer them on the fly. There's a delay between you asking them and me seeing them, so just please be aware of that. It's a couple minutes. All right, so I also have the majority of the previous Hangouts questions and their answers compiled into like a downloadable book on my website, which is chuckgrossfitness.com. So please go and sign up and check out the site. Some of the articles are related to weekly content, like your weekly assignments. Other articles are topics that I think would be useful in general to everyone and include topics like fixing your willpower and getting better sleep, which we could probably all help stand to do. With that said, we have tons of questions. I don't think I've ever gotten this many questions ever for a single Hangout. So let's get to them. I'm going to have to try to fit them all in. Thank you for submitting them, number one. I'm going to try to get through them all, but I'm also going to respect the 30-minute time limit that we have scheduled for tonight. So if I don't get to your question tonight, I will automatically include it in the next Hangout, top of the queue, essentially. If you think your question needs answered before the next Hangout, just let me know, and I'll answer you either directly through the group or another way just to make sure I can get you the answer that you need to kind of go forward. All right, so let's get to the first question. The first question comes from Erica. Erica asks, if I want to make something fried at home, what's the best way of tracking the fat from the oil? So if you're pan frying it, I'd recommend just measuring the oil that you put in the pan and counting all of that. If you're deep frying, I'd probably recommend you switch to pan frying so that you're not over-consuming excess oil and calories. The reason for that specifically is because the extra calories from the oil is unlikely to actually fill you up. Worst case scenario, if you are deep frying, you could look it up on MyFitnessPal, find an entry that's equivalent and already takes into account being fried in oil. So for example, let's just say you have a fried chicken breast. I'd probably use the calorie and macro information from KFC and go from there. They've already done all the work for you, and it's equivalent. Calorie tracking is not an exact science, but using info from chain reference is pretty much good enough. It'll get you there, close enough. All right, the second question also comes from Erica. She asks, when doing my exercises, should I complete all of the sets for each exercise before moving on to the next? Or is it okay to do one set from each exercise, for each exercise, and then rotate around? So like, if it's a set of squats, do one set, a set of bench press, do I do that one next? Or should I complete all of the sets for that particular exercise before moving on? So in general, you want to complete all of the sets for each exercise before moving on to the next one. Most exercise plans that I give out are going to be structured that way. So the exercises are ordered in order of importance so that you can give certain body parts a rest and you can prioritize your energy so that the most important exercises are done first in the workout, so that your initial energy is going to that important exercise first in all of its sets. However, some people do have workout routines for their specific situation that I've labeled as circuit sets, which are done one set per exercise and cycled through like you mentioned. These are generally done with dumbbells or barbells and you use the same weight across all the exercises, meaning not just sets, but the same weight across every exercise. And the exercises are ordered so that you can quickly switch from one exercise to the next without really having to move too much. So if you have a plan like that, this question doesn't really apply to you. That's certainly an option. I kind of view that type of workout more as cardio. It's something you can kind of do every day. You will get stronger eventually, but it's not the most direct path to strength and maintaining muscle mass in a calorie deficit. It's certainly doable, though. It's an easy way to kind of active recovery on your off days because you're not really going to go too heavy because you have to be able to do all sets with the same weight. All right. The next question was essentially asked by multiple people. So thank you to everyone that asked it. Two specific examples of the question came from Kevin and Karen. Kevin says that he has a bachelor party with lots of drinking and crappy eating coming up. And Karen asked about any specific strategies for social obligations that involve going out to eat. So the good news is, for those of you in the recently started extreme fat loss class, this is something we'll spend a few weeks focusing on with different habits that can kind of be combined as a strategy to deal with these situations. In general, what I personally do and what I recommend for these cases is that leading up to whatever the event is, let's say it's in the evening, you eat essentially only lean protein sources and green vegetables. For the most part, that's going to be like protein shakes, chicken breast, turkey breast, things like that, and green fibrous vegetables like broccoli, salad, things like that. So the idea here is to get close to your protein goal with the fewest amount of calories as possible, but also get in as many green vegetables that are low calorie so that you also have vitamins and minerals and you feel really full going into the event. So you're essentially creating a calorie buffer. So you basically have everything you need to stay healthy and full for the whole day, but you've compressed it into a small amount of calories. So that gives you some leeway for the rest of your day. So when the event happens, enjoy yourself, but also try to be mindful about your choices. So just because it's a social event doesn't mean you need to go overboard. You can still enjoy yourself and, think about, am I full or am I eating just to eat? Things like that. Some other things you can do are skipping breakfast and then moving that larger portion of protein and veggies to right before the event. And this is one that I like to do myself. So when I'm going to dinner, I'll plan ahead, and I'll also put my dinner meal in the tracker first and work backwards from there so that I can still hit my goals. So, for example, my family loves to go out for Italian food. And I know when I go here, they have the best veal parmesan, they have the best lasagna, and they have meatball pizza that's amazing. So if I want to eat that, it doesn't mean I need to go off plan. It doesn't mean I can't hit my goals, but I reasonably portion it out in advance with some estimates in MyFitnessPal, and I'll do that like the day before. So I'll know like, hey, I'm going to have like 4 slices of meatball pizza. Ballpark meatball pizza slice is probably 300 calories a slice. So I know what my goal is for the day. I've budgeted 1,200 calories to the meatball pizza. So then I just have the remainder that I need to fit in to meals prior to that. Let's see. Oh, so the other thing I tend to order when it's not at the Italian place is I'm a huge fan of fried chicken wings because they're not typically eaten with a side dish. So not having a side dish with chicken wings is socially acceptable, and you really don't need one because they're a little bit more work to eat compared to some foods. They're full of protein, they're full of fat, and when you eat them, it doesn't feel like you're missing out. It's not like you go out with friends and you order a salad when everyone else is, getting like ribs or burgers, whatever. You can order wings and it kind of still, you don't feel like you're sacrificing something by ordering wings. At least I don't, and other people I know don't. I tend to go with dry rubs on the wings instead of like sugary sauces. I know a lot of the wing places I frequent have like a General Tso's sauce. Try to avoid that, even though it's yummy. I'll ask for like the dry rub or just seasoned salt, and then I'll add whatever hot sauce they have on the table, like Frank's Red Hot. Buffalo sauce usually adds butter to the Frank's Red Hot, which is like adding tons of calories when you really don't need it. Personally, I'd rather just have more wings and less butter with them and just cover them in Frank's Red Hot, but that's me. For drinks, what you can do is I normally would order a lower calorie beer like a Guinness. Most people don't realize that Guinness is one of the lower calorie beers, and it's actually close to some light beers in calories. I think a 16-ounce Guinness is like 120 calories. For as good as it tastes to me, I'd rather drink the Guinness. But recently I've started to order mixed drinks, not mixed drinks, but like liquor instead, because it has the same effect for even lower calories than a Guinness. And they're not drinks you really need to rush through. So like a whiskey or a scotch, you could kind of drink it like on the rocks if you want to. And it's more of a sipping drink, so you're not going to be chugging a fine scotch or whatever. One resource that I'd recommend is a website called getdrunknotfat.com. That will give you some ideas as to what is the lowest calorie alcoholic beverage you could get that will fit with your goals, that you'll still be able to enjoy yourself. So brief summary is, an IPA beer, craft beer, is going to be a calorie bomb. You're looking at like one beer is like going to be 500 plus calories. A 4 ounces of like tequila is going to be like, 150 to 200, something like that. So there are some options. You can kind of tweak it around to kind of match your goals. So definitely check that out. The last thing I want to mention on this topic is that if you have something major coming up and you really don't want to worry about all this stuff, you can take a break from your new habits for a single day. It's not a deal breaker. As long as you don't feel guilty about it and you are committed to getting back to those habits the very next day. Sometimes certain things come up and you just kind of want to have like an off day and you just want to enjoy yourself and not really worry about food choices. That's perfectly fine unless you're not going overboard, like crazy, just stuffing food in because you feel deprived. It shouldn't have too much of an impact. It really depends on how liberal you're taking that as just enjoy yourself. So like I said, the important thing is kind of getting back to the habits the very next day. If that's, you have so many social events that are so frequent, you probably want to look at the strategies that I mentioned. All right. The next question comes from Karen. Made sure to have a drink for this one because I've done a couple before and I didn't have a drink and regretted it about halfway through. So Karen asks, what's a good way to get out of the evening snacking habit? I can be pretty good all day and then I fall on my face when it's evening. I'm tired and watching TV and then the snack craving hits. Should I have a better or healthier snack or cut them completely? So I love having a snack when watching TV myself. That's one thing I haven't compromised on. As soon as this is over, I'm going to go make my snack and watch some TV. I have a couple shows kind of queued up that I need to catch up on, but that's my plan immediately following this. So I have a snack every night. And you generally have the exact same snack every night. So that's usually the first thing that goes in my tracker is that particular snack. Now, in the previous scenario, things like going out to dinner with social events, I'll usually cut that snack out or reduce it severely just to be able to have a little bit more leeway for when I'm actually at the social event or whatever, or out to dinner. But normally my usual snack is 2 servings of Dannon Light and Fit Greek yogurt, a big heap of frozen strawberries, frozen blueberries. I put them in the microwave, mix it all together, and put some sugar-free Jell-O on top. To me, that's incredibly filling. However, if you find yourself eating your better snack and then still wanting more snacks, you may want to consider easing up on the bedtime snacks and then gradually removing the idea of it. It's possible that the idea of snacking at bedtime, it's not that you're hungry, it's just you just like the feeling or basically the serotonin, the hormone release in your brain that you get from snacking while watching TV. And it's really just a habit that you could break if you want to. It really depends on you, but it's perfectly possible to have a snack every night, fit it into your goals, and still have success in that regard. But if you find yourself that you're needing a snack in addition to your healthy snack, what you also could do is see if it is like a physical hunger thing where you might want to make sure you budget for more fiber, more protein, and even more fat earlier in the day so that by the time you get to snack time at bedtime, you're already so full from having hit your protein, your fat, and your fiber goals. Go from there. That's kind of the point where you want to say, am I actually hungry, or is this just a mental craving where I have some like association with eating that's happiness that's not related to actual physical hunger? One trick, I say, it's not really like that much of a trick, but some people will brush their teeth when a craving hits because in their mind, they've associated like brushing your teeth is what you do when you're done eating. So that's kind of like a signal to like, hey, I'm done eating, I'm brushing my teeth. And then, that just kind of lets you get into that habit of like, all right, I'm done. So you've like officially said that's it for the evening. All right. Our next few questions come from Noah. Noah asks, how do I handle being hungrier the more active I become? That's a great question, Noah. The answer to that is what I call the trifecta, because it's a bunch of equal things that contribute to feeling less hungry, giving you what your body needs, and still allowing you to stick to your calorie goals. So the things are protein, fiber, and high volume, high nutrition, low calorie foods. So there are some foods that are perfect for that situation because they fall into one or more of those categories simultaneously. So for example, egg whites are high protein, they're high volume, and they have a high nutritional value and are low calorie. So like an egg white omelet, or you can use egg whites to like whip up like a protein powder dessert, things like that. They are high volume. Green fibrous vegetables are high fiber and are low calorie with high nutritional value. So they're going to fill you up. They're not going to be a lot of calories, and there's going to be fiber to keep you full longer. Another example would be something like lentils. Lentils hit all three categories, and they're moderate in each. Lentils have protein, they have lots of fiber, and they are low calorie and lots of nutrition. So lentils are what I usually put in things like crock pot meals or chili. They soak up the flavor of whatever they're with, and they are very filling. Some other things you can do are look at some foods that are near 0 calories per serving, but are also pretty filling. Things like konjac or shirataki noodles. They normally have them in the produce section. They're refrigerated. They're basically essentially all fiber. They come in like a bag of water, and you have to rinse them really good, or the smell's kind of weird because a lot of times they're preserved in sea salt. Once you rinse it off, they're similar in that they just kind of soak up the flavor of whatever you cook them in. Sugar-free Jello, I already mentioned. I have some sugar-free Jello every night. It's, I think a cup of sugar-free Jello is like 5 or 10 calories, depending on what kind you get. Mushrooms are a great thing to kind of add if you like them. Lots of people don't like mushrooms. It's kind of an acquired taste, but mushrooms are hardly any calories. You can add them to things, bulk them up, get them more filling. Or you can make something like a broccoli soup. You can basically take an entire stalk of broccoli and make a soup out of it, and it's filling, it's warm, it's nutritious, and it's hardly any calories. All right. Well, I guess I was wrong. I think that was only one question from Noah there. So, sorry. Okay. The next question comes from Craig. Craig asks, how does a low-carb, high-protein diet help us lose fat? Is the low-carb percentage some sort of permanent diet change, or will the carb percentage increase at some point? So this particular question and answer is directed at my massive fat loss group. I have some other people in different groups that have elected to choose the low-carb diet plan, but this is more directed to those. So if you're not following a low-carb diet plan, this doesn't really affect you at all. If something that interests you, please let me know and we can talk about it, though. So a low-carb, high-protein diet helps with blood sugar control, which helps with hunger control, which is really the main point here is controlling hunger. It helps you break away from the mentality of food as a reward. It helps rewire your taste buds, because in order to effectively do low carb, you have to eliminate foods that are like your trigger foods for overeating. It's usually because those foods are hyper palatable and thus easier to overeat. Hyper palatable usually means something like a combination of fat, carbs, sugar, and salt all in one product. And that essentially, our brains are hardwired to crave that type of stuff. So it's foods that have been engineered by food engineers that sell their processed foods, that know that once you eat some of that food, you immediately want more of it and you don't feel full. In fact, you may feel hungrier having eaten it. So to do low carb, you have to get rid of those. So that really helps your adherence. And that's one of the primary benefits in addition to hunger control, but that's part of hunger control too. It also ensures that you're preserving your muscles, because you pretty much have to eat higher protein than the standard American diet in order to follow low carb. So it's ensuring that the weight you do lose is fat and not muscle, because it's possible to lose weight incorrectly and have it come from muscle and not all fat. So that's a big benefit. But if you're hearing my voice, you are on a higher protein diet already. So that's really not a specific factor for that. Also, I want to mention that there's generally two types of food cravings. People can crave salty or savory foods. Other people tend to crave sweeter foods. And people that crave salty and savory foods tend to do better on low-carb diets, simply because the food choices you make as part of your lifestyle fit those cravings. So it's basically you're getting to eat what you're craving all the time anyways. My cravings are usually salty and savory myself, so it's perfectly fine with me. I think I was having a conversation with someone earlier where, it's not unheard of for me to eat 8+ eggs in a day because they're salty and savory. All right. Well, they're salty once I salt them up, but a low percentage of carbs does not necessarily need to be a permanent diet change. The answer to that specific is individualized. Many people find that carb-laden foods are triggers for them that don't allow them to adhere to the lifestyle change. But as you get leaner, and if you're lifting weights, getting stronger, you may reach a point where you need carbs to be able to recover correctly from your workouts. That point is going to be a little bit different from everyone. So once you kind of are feeling that point, we can certainly discuss if that's the best place to go next. I don't recommend going from no carbs or low carbs to immediately high carbs. That's a quick pathway to being sick, because you're essentially, with a lower carb diet, your body is primed to use fat as a fuel source. And then if you immediately throw a bunch of carbs back in overnight, you're not going to feel good. So if you need to transition for whatever reason, and we've discussed it, I would help you slowly transition and change things around. So it's a gradual change. The body does not like change at all. So you can't just make these drastic changes all the time unless you're prepared to deal with the consequences or have a plan to deal with them. So, and that's one of the reasons why, if you're doing a low carb diet now, I've specifically recommended a couple things like potassium salt, because of some of the side effects from drastically cutting out your carb intake from one day to the next. And those help get rid of that. The term for that is called like keto flu. It feels like you have the flu, but it's really just the result of having drastically reduced carbs overnight. So, all right. The next question also comes from Craig, and he asks, is it bad to eat too far below your calorie goal? There are days when I don't feel like eating more just to hit a protein goal. I would say that depends. If it's a single day, it doesn't matter, and you shouldn't force feed yourself just to hit your goals. However, if this were a regular occurrence and you never feel like eating anywhere near close to your calorie goal, you may experience a side effect where your body's just starting to feel incredibly run down and not having enough energy, and you may not simply be recovering enough. When you're in a calorie deficit, you have a limited amount of energy, and you have to make sure you're putting it towards the right things. So that feeling of being awful, if that occurs, can kind of snowball and start to change how well you're adhering to your entire lifestyle change. So what can happen is that, okay, I'm not hungry, I'm just not going to eat for multiple days in a row. And then boom, you cave in and you're just eating a bunch of processed foods, and you're kind of back to square one again. So that's where a lot of times you kind of want to make sure you're eating regularly so that you're getting enough energy throughout the day, because if you're not, you're going to feel awful over time, and that's what you want to avoid. All right, our next question comes from Ashley. Ashley asks, as a girl with severely awful pains for at least 1 to 2 days a month, what do you recommend to stay motivated to still get to the gym to work out? That's a great question, Ashley, because there's two different answers. One approach is that knowing that working out may actually help you feel better when you have those awful pains. So the only way to know that for sure is to try it and see if it helps. So if you have those 1 or 2 days that you feel awful in a month, go and try to work out and see if that helps alleviate the pain whatsoever. If it doesn't, then I would say it's okay to skip the gym for those 1 to 2 days, as long as you return back to your habits after taking a break. It's not a problem to miss a gym day. Really what creates lasting fat loss is your nutrition. Working out, the exercise portion, does not create the fat loss itself. It helps people adhere. It helps you be healthier physically and mentally. It helps to change your aesthetic appearance, meaning you have more muscle mass and less body fat as a result of working out. But when I'm pressed for time, or I have too many things going on, or I don't feel great, the workouts are the first thing I scale back, rather than slack on the nutrition piece, because the nutrition piece has the greatest effect compared to the exercise. So I know that when I was my busiest, I scaled my workouts to 2 days a week. So I only worked out 2 days a week, but my nutrition, that was my primary focus. So that freed up a bunch of time for me. So I would say it's okay to skip the gym for those 2 days, just as long as you're going to return back to your habits after the break. Just don't use the break from working out as an excuse to take a break from the nutrition as well. All right. The next question is also from Ashley, and Ashley asks, how would you recommend training for a 5K to balance the cardio side against the strength side. I think the best way to train for a 5K is to use the Couch to 5K program. This is a great beginner's program that is 3 cardio workouts per week, and it takes 2 months. So you can go from not being able to do anything to running a 5K in 2 months. I would say if you do this, you can scale your other workout days back to 2 or 3, giving yourself at least 1 whole day of rest with no activity. I mean, when I say no activity, I mean you could still go for like a brisk walk, 20 to 30 minutes, and whatever else you're doing for fun, but no scheduled, exercise. I'm hoping to possibly start this sometime with my wife, but I've never run a 5K. I have some foot issues that prevents me from really running. That's why I'm not a fan of running, because it causes some problems. But I'd hope to be able to try this myself one day. So if I wanted to run a 5K, that's what I would go to, is Couch to 5K. And I believe the website for that, I think it's couch5k.com, but I think there's also one called Cool Runnings. And it's not the John Candy bobsled movie about the Olympics. It's specific to running and Couch to 5K. So, wow, I worked in a Cool Runnings movie reference. Didn't expect that. All right. All right. So the next question comes from Danny. Danny says that amyloid beta is a protein found to increase the risk of Alzheimer's disease. Should I be worried about a buildup of this protein if I take supplemental protein? That is a serious question. This one is a little bit beyond my level of knowledge. I do know that the supplemental protein that I take, which is the MyProtein brand, does give their entire amino acid profile. So amyloid beta is not listed as an ingredient in MyProtein protein powder. Beyond that, I'm not really sure. I don't know the specific metabolic change that happens when you intake amino acids. Does that raise or lower amyloid beta levels? I couldn't find any research specific to this question that was talking about that. The only thing seems to say that amyloid beta is related to Alzheimer's occurrence, but there's nothing that says that I could find that was clear to me that I understood that indicated what raised amyloid beta levels. So that's kind of, like I said, you could certainly check and see if your protein powder or protein supplements offer what amino acids are in them. So like I said, I know MyProtein does not have amyloid beta amino acid in its protein products. So, all right, another question from Danny. Danny asks, is there any data that says working out in the morning is better or more effective than working out in the afternoon, evening? There is some data regarding the differences between when you work out in the morning versus the evening. And it really depends on if you're a morning person or a night owl. Your body functions like they include blood pressure, body temperature, hormone levels, and your heart rate are going to differ at different points of the day depending on if you're a night owl or a morning person. So, all those things are important for your workout too. So that will change kind of which scenario is optimal for you. There's unfortunately not a conclusive one-size-fits-all answer that I could say, hey, everyone go work out in the morning, it's optimal. Doing something regularly that's not going to cause you stress is way more important than doing what's optimal. I would say that if you're used to evening workouts and you're curious about morning workouts, give it a try. But you can't just give it a try once and say this sucks. You kind of have to make a habit out of it first to be able to compare. So you have to try morning workouts for a month and see what you like better. You really need to give it more than a few days in order to kind of switch over before being able to fairly evaluate. I did morning workouts myself for, I want to say, almost 2 months. And it was every single day. I made myself get up early for 2 months. I did a quick 15-minute workout in the morning. I felt great all morning. It just wasn't sustainable for the rest of my day, though. So even though I got up early and I felt better during the morning portion of the day, it just didn't work for me, with the rest of my life and scheduling and things like that. So for me, I can't say that it was better. I'd rather work out in the evening myself. It just kind of is a de-stressor for me. So, come home, I'm stressed out or whatever, I work out and it's gone. So that's kind of just, is a better fit for my situation. So it's something you kind of want to evaluate for yourself. All right. That looks like all of the questions that were submitted. That was a lot of them. Okay, so I have a submitted question here. Winter beard time? Yes. I actually no. This beard right now is about year and a half almost. So I'm gonna go get it trimmed here in the next couple months at a hipster beard trimming establishment. Go from there. But yeah, it's been like a year and a half. It was October 2013. I was clean shaven for my birthday, and I haven't really cut it since then. So all right, let me kind of skip around here, see if we have any more questions. All right, I don't see any other questions being asked, but the good news is that I did get through every single question that was submitted. Um, if you think of something after the hangout ends, you can ask it, as soon as it ends, and I'll try to get it on the schedule for next week. And so basically, if this is your first time, what I'll do is every Sunday, I'll post a link to the hangout, and then you can just reply with your questions, and then or you can ask them live during the hangout, and we'll go from there. So, all right. Well, everyone have a great night. I hope I answered your questions. If you need clarification on something, please feel free to ask. If you missed something earlier in the Hangout because you joined after it started, you can view the link. We'll have the Hangout recording at any time, so you can kind of go back through, pause, and rewind and stuff. And I'll be talking to everyone this week. Everyone have a great night. Bye-bye.